tuning in. My name is Danielle Johnson. Welcome to episode 4 of Did You Know Financial? This episode is called The Importance of Financial Literacy. And I'm so excited because my good friend from college, Achumboro Ataande, Esquire, is joining us today. Please let us know a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on this podcast with you, Danielle. So a little bit about me. I am a full-time entrepreneur. And I like to start off by saying that because I say that to emphasize my first company was a failure. Technically, my first two. I actually started one at St. John's, but I don't count that. So I don't count that.
It all
so
counts as long as you got the lessons.
I learned a lot from it, though. So I start that because I think a lot of people have a rosy picture of entrepreneurship, and they don't understand that there are a lot of downs and as well as there are great upsides to it, but there's a lot of failure on the journey as well. So I do like saying that, not for this, that I've ran a lot of businesses, but also saying that I started off with 1 or 2 failures, right? But I'm also an attorney. So I actually went to law school because of what happened with my first company, entrepreneurship. Long story short, somebody got the better of me. I like to say that, so I don't victimize myself. Somebody got the better of me, and I realized that I didn't do what I needed to do to make sure I was legally protected. And I said that will never happen to me again. Okay. So that's actually the reason why I went to law school. Long story short, my 3rd or 4th company, that's more of, I always worked so hard in terms of, putting I still do it. So I still do putting in like 16-hour days, right? 20-hour days when it's crazy, right? And I learned that that really pushed me into investing, because I learned that it's not wise to just depend only on me or only make money when I'm always working, right? Yep. So finally, 2 ways with my latest company and also with investing is I've been working on creating leverage, right? And having other people also earn and create a structure that's not dependent on me working, billing, actually doing the value creating work all the time in order to bring in income. So that's a little bit about me. And anything else, I'm kind of like you. I also want to come into real estate, but I'm looking at it from more of a international perspective. I know my wife, she's really into it. I said, hey, we got to go on a double date and learn about this. But I really want to jump into real estate and income,
the passive income and stuff.
Passive income assets. So I'm definitely going to ask 2 questions about that.
Oh, definitely. No problem. Well, first off, congratulations. I know you recently got married. Congrats to you. Marriage is amazing. So that's cool. One thing I always loved about you is that you're like so humble. Guys, he's just like really relaxed and humble. This guy reads 100 books a year. He upped it to 200 books this year. Like, I look at this and I'm like, man, this is goals, because I'm just like a numbers person. So it's just like, what, 200 books a year? Like, where do you find it? Like, it's like amazing. And currently, you guys on a year-long honeymoon. You're actually overseas right now. What time is it over there?
So it's 8:30 a.m. So we're 12 hours ahead of New York. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you just for even doing this interview. Like, I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
You're currently in Thailand, correct?
Correct. Nice, I'm in Phuket right now.
Cool. Are you going to hop around soon?
Yeah, we're going to. So we've been here for a month in Phuket. We've been in Thailand for about 2 months. Actually, today's the 2nd. Well, I think we left the US on December 3rd. So we spent 1 month in Bangkok and now another month in Phuket, which is more like a beach type island scenario. And then next we're going to Chiang Mai, which is the home of digital nomads. So I'm looking forward to it.
Wow, that's going to be cool. You're probably going to learn a lot of new things, meet new people. That's cool. I went to It was really nice. It was nice. Thailand's cool. And then just the food, the street food's amazing.
Yeah, we love that.
I love traveling just like you, just learning the world and seeing new people. That's pretty cool. So as the topic today is just importance of financial literacy. So I just want to know, why do you feel as if it's hard for just like, people to just talk about money, like, between peers, between family, between even couples, things like that? Why do you feel like it's just so hard for people to talk about money?
I think there's two things that's going on. Well, there's more than two, but two major things. One is psychological, right? There's a shame, right? There's a feeling of vulnerability. There's a lack of competence, and depending on what you're hearing around you, if you show that vulnerability, it's look like you're not cool, or it's it points out your weakness in ways that, which leads into my second point, developing that skill, that competence, that endurance to be able to go through that shame, or to be able to stretch yourself when you're in an uncomfortable position, right? So it's looked at taboo in some communities to ask somebody how much you make.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
How much you make, or what are you doing, right? And other than people saying they make X, but they don't really make X, but really sharing the real numbers. So I think what has to happen, even, I don't want to say even before investing, but we also have to talk about how much are we making at our jobs? How much are we making in entrepreneurship? How much, what's going on, and taking that, and not with everyone, obviously.
But at least have the conversation with everyone.
At least in the family unit, or with some close friends, being able to share, okay, I make X amount, I make Y amount, I'm at this position. They're like, okay, I hear you do this, but at this company you can get paid 20, 30%, 40% more for doing the same exact job. So starting off and creating conversations around that can help us get more into financial literacy, which isn't solely about stock investing or real estate investing.
Correct.
Understanding the financial impact on our current, past, and future life is very important.
That's a good point. Yes, you're absolutely right. Just the vulnerability that correlates very well to just love, being able to expose all of yourself. But with finances, it's literally exposing yourself on paper, when you're sharing something with somebody, or if you're sharing a mistake you made. And that's why I always tell people, like, man, just do you. People make mistakes all the time. Just continue on, no matter what. Just move forward, because it's just like if you're a millionaire last year, even with inflation, you're no longer a millionaire, like things constantly change. You gotta keep constantly working, moving towards it. Wow, I really like that. That was a good point. It's definitely psychological. At what age did you realize financial literacy was really important?
I'll say I didn't realize it till my late 20s. And I'll say I knew it, but I thought, so why say I didn't realize it? I thought, hey, all I needed to do was become this super accomplished entrepreneur, create a Fortune 500 company, and that's the only way. I didn't view that, hey, I really need to understand assets versus liabilities, and understanding different investment vehicles, right, or different asset classes. So I didn't realize that until my late 20s. And what hurt me, I'll say, I had some glimpses, because we were at St. John's during the crash, right? During the 2008 financial crash. And at that point, I knew that, I had a big feeling in my gut. And I was very adamant that the government, the prices of some of the bank stocks were way too low. But I didn't know how to execute a trade. I didn't know.
Robin wasn't around.
Robin Hood was not around to help. And I also had very little money other than like student loan money. But even that would have turned.
It's true.
That would have been a better use of than whatever I was using it on.
No, it's really true.
So I've seen the issues with not knowing and losing out on an amazing bull run, right, from like 2008, 2009 till now.
Yeah.
So that could have been 12 years, 12, 13 years of phenomenal growth, depending on what you picked.
Correct. I mean, we could go as recent as just 2020, even if we had threw some money in some coins, or we bought up like a couple properties and flipped them, that's the thing. You never know. You really just never know. It's there's really no real way to prepare. All you could do is just do what works well for you. It's just been crazy. It's been a whirlwind. It's just really wild. I think you mentioned something else just about learning at a certain age. And I kind of emphasize this to people, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a consultant, whether you're a teacher, everybody needs to understand financial literacy. Everybody needs to just have a plan. Your plan may be different. Some people want to be financially free. Some people want to be debt free. Some people just want to, I don't know, travel the world. Whatever works for you. But it's so important to still know where your money's going. How much debt do you have? How can you manage? And the reality is, just like a year like 2020, we don't know what's happening even with our health. As you mentioned, having passive income, that could help you a lot. Some people lost their jobs. Like, it's so important. I can't even continue stressing it. And again, your goal could be whatever, but it's so important just having a budget, knowing where your money's going. Like, not, and as you mentioned, not being ashamed. Some people never check their accounts because they're like, oh, I spent too much this weekend. I open it up. Like, oh man, I gotta slow down. Like, debit card, you're staying home.
That's so true. And I think, like, when we say, I think everyone thinks we're not asking everyone to become masters. Correct. Right? We're not asking you to become masters. I think we have to develop a baseline standard knowledge of whether knowing how to open an account, knowing what's an asset versus liability. I think starting off with that, knowing what's the purpose of an emergency fund and how to create one, right? And then even more than important than that is learning how to find out more information.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
For yourself, so you can build according to your goals, and you don't have to be an expert at everything. Like, I think we heard at the beginning, we started off, I'm not going to, like, I know some stuff about real estate. I was a real estate broker, so I do know, but I'm not going to, if I go and I'm going to ask Danielle, hey, can I partner with you? Can I mentor you? Can I put a little bit of money? Or my other friends who are in real estate, John Delight, other people who are amazing in real estate, I'm going to say, hey, can I learn a bit from you about that? You don't have to be an expert in every domain. Find what you're passionate about, or you think you're passionate, and start introducing yourself to it, right? Whether putting yourself
Exactly. You literally learn. That's all. As you mentioned, nobody's asking to be masters, and that's why I started this page and even with this podcast. Yeah, I'm busy. Time is crazy, but it's just like it's so important because there's so much information out there, and just like people make it seem like, oh, so easy, just do this, do that, and it's just like no. And I'm gonna tell you, even if you make a mistake, I'm like, all right, pick yourself up. What's next? What are we doing? A building could be on fire. I'm not gonna be like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be like, how are we putting out this fire? That's how I am. That's my attitude. And I think that works really well for me. Just invest in the field of real estate, because it'll be like something's happening and I'm like, okay, how are we solving this? Versus other people, like you said, find out what works best for you. You might be a stock person. You might be a person that likes to invest in some safe stocks. You want to put in index funds. That is perfectly fine. Maybe real estate is not for you. Maybe trading options is not for you. And nothing is wrong with that. You just find out what works for you. And as you're going on your path, maybe in the next 5 years, you want to do real estate. In the next 5 years, you want to do trade options. Life, you can keep learning. That's a beautiful thing about life. You can literally learn a skill, jump on YouTube, ask your trusted friends that are doing it. I'm not advising you go online and pay like $500 for a course that you're never going to pay attention to, but do your own research first before you really take a big step forward. So this is interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, and that's so important. Making mistakes are going to be part of it. And you kind of, we spoke about whether we'll talk about this, but I will, because it's you and it's your.
That was the next question.
All right, I'll let you ask the question and I'll answer it.
It's fine. I'll say. But I was just gonna say, because as you mentioned earlier, you were vulnerable. You shared something on Instagram. This wasn't close friends, guys. This was actually true Instagram. He mentioned at the end of the year, just like he made an investment where he ended up losing money, but it was like he spoke about it so positively. And me, I hate losing money. I hate losing $1 because I'm cheap. But it happens sometimes, But I just want to ask you, like, how did that make you feel? What made you share it, and also how did you rebound from it?
So what made me share it, I think, is something I've been trying to work on is gratitude. and giving without expectations. So gratitude and generosity, that's something, and humility. I know you say, but I'm trying to work on Proverbs, being more humble and asking for help.
I understand. Yes.
And that requires vulnerability, right? To be able to ask for help. So I think so many times we just see people just shouting about their successes, right? And not talking about the failures. So then when somebody else has messed up, they're like, man, I can't do this. So am I the only one making mistakes? And not understanding that's the real part of the process, right? And I kind of want to let people know that it's okay to make mistakes, and it's hard. I didn't know what would come from, like, man, being way too vulnerable. Like, I got people who I'm coaching and whatnot. Are they going to stop wanting coaching now? But just learning to share more appropriately. And so what I'll say, and I'll elaborate that a bit. How did it make me? It made me feel bad. It made me feel incompetent. Sometimes it makes me feel like I won't be able to learn, right? And it's tough. It's not easy. Some of them you can shake off, but some of the lessons are not easy to learn, or it can put you in a real tailspin. Thankfully, I pray a lot, so God has me, and I'm learning that even more and more. But so what has happened, and I'll share this, I think the last 3 or 5 years, I've, I'll say I've wasted / lost in investments in buying silly things. 5 figures. 3 of the last 4 years, or 4 of the last 5 years.
I have figures to go to 99999. Let me stop.
Low end. Let's say mostly on the lower end. Mostly on the lower end.
Still high. 5 figures get you a property.
Mostly on the lower end. And so the first time was just my first time making. So maybe it's 3 out of the last 5 years. My first time like making real money. Right. This was after my first failed company. I finally did some legal work, and then started doing like some e-commerce work, and I finally made some money. And I was like, okay, let me upgrade my closet. I haven't shopped in a while, right? So I started buying stuff, and that became a 5-figure. I wasn't in debt or anything. But if I had put that in a market, or bought some more coins, right? I had bought some coins, but if I had bought some more coins, I'd have been in a better position. That doesn't mean all of it. Just meant maybe I only needed a third of the things, because some things I actually needed, like suits, I did because I needed to dress professional. But it's like there's a limit where you can stop, right? So that's one of it. Another time was options. So this was 2020 and 2021. So I'm like, okay, I was okay. The market, they're still too exuberant on Starbucks. I was like, no way people are going to continue going out for these price lattes and teas. And I didn't understand the Starbucks culture. So I was real bearish on Starbucks, and took a loss there. And there was a couple other ones that I don't remember. So that was a loss. And then most recently, 2021 has been futures. So futures is super dangerous.
You talking about like last week, the week before? Like, it's been great. The market has been crazy. Like, I can't lie. I sat back and I was like, okay, I'm just a little happy real estate working right now. It's like almost uncontrollable. It's insane. You know, like a company like Tesla, they had really good earnings. Their stock was like going down. Like, it's just like you can't really control it, but also you can do what was I gonna say? Educated research. You know, it's not gambling. Like, that's a whole other thing we need to talk about. It's not gambling, but it's literally like you can do your research, but just lately, like, there's things that we just can't control, whether it's talks on war, whether it's inflation, whatever's going on, COVID coming back, rising cases, we don't know what's happening. Like, things are just have been like crazy. And as you mentioned, just futures have been taking a really like crazy hit. And options, honestly, this is me personally, even with my husband, I could play around, do a lot of stuff in the stock market. Yeah, put money in index funds and things like that. But if you have a real job and you have other real commitments, it will be really hard for you to do day trading unless you're 100% committed. That's just me. And I feel like that's the way for you to be like, I'm pulling in 500 grand this year. I'm doing 100 grand in the market this year. Because you literally have to sit there and time it. Recently I was traveling and it was a completely different time zone and I was trading options. So by the time I'm sleeping, I'm trying to wake up when the market waking up so I could like sell up. It was like, you can't do it. Like, it's crazy. It was just crazy. But I'm really happy, like, just for you to share your story and your vulnerability. And as you mentioned, some of it could be stock, some of it could be, somebody investing in clothes or whatever. But it's just like, you always have to know when to stop. And I think that's the difference. That's where it gets a little closer, just like investing and gambling, where it's like, I have to also know where to stop. Like, for me, I want more properties, but I know I'm not going this route where I'm borrowing money from hard money lenders. Other people are doing it. That's their business. That's what works for them. I'm still risk adverse. You know what I mean? If I take my hits, I'd rather take my hits, just me and my husband, versus I owe somebody else and somebody's coming to break my knees.
No,
you know what I mean? So
that's so important. Like you said, understanding and mitigating risk and limit. And so that's actually, so the last month, I think after Christmas, I've been taking off. I've moved to paper trading because I was like, you know what? Wow. I need to reset. I need to reset and figure out what I'm doing wrong rather than saying I just need another. It's like, so I'm relearning or practicing, trying to tune out what's wrong. And that's actually part of what led to me to go to 200 books from 100 books. I'm like, I have to close this knowledge gap. I have to. And I have to push myself, because if I want to actually succeed so I've stopped I'm not doing options again. Let me not say I'm probably not going to do options again.
Right now, options too.
But futures, I want to continue in futures. I really enjoy it, but I'm pausing, and it's looking like maybe March, April, but learning not to force myself back into the market until I'm ready to truly thrive in the market.
Yes. And you know what? Nothing's wrong with that. Even real estate right now, I have a rule, like my husband and I have a rule. I'm not paying above asking. I'm not looking for my dream house. I don't care. I'm not putting $50,000 over. I'm looking for investments right now. And if the numbers aren't right, nope, I'll wait. You know what I'm gonna do? Keep stacking. Then if not, I'm not gonna jump. I'm gonna jump into commercial, because guess what? Commercial is a whole different ballgame nobody talks about. So it's like, I'm not paying above asking. What's wrong? People have lost their minds. Like, I don't know what is happening right now. It's like, it's insane. But like you mentioned, there's nothing wrong with just like pulling back. Like, you know what? Maybe I should explore a different market. You know what? Let me learn a little more what people did back when the interest rates were 5%, 6%. Let me learn about, maybe doing something else, living, we've never done like a house hack or anything. Maybe we should do that. Like, just completely changing your view. And you know what? That's also the good thing about when the market goes up and down. It forces you to learn. Like, the real people that are really trying to learn, it forces you to dig deep. You dive, like, okay, what's going on? Okay, history kind of always repeats itself in finances. So it's just like, okay, you just learn. You literally press pause and you just learn. And then you hit play with a whole new set of knowledge, a fresh brain. You're not frustrated, because sometimes it gets frustrating, like investing and learning new things. And you just find your avenue and what works for you. So that's really good. I'm happy to hear that. Quickly, can you talk about just futures? Because we didn't even talk about options. This might be a long one, but just quickly touch on options and futures for me, if you don't mind, just so the audience could know.
So options is essentially the right to buy or sell a stock, an equity at a certain price. That's essentially what's an option. And typically you buy in bids of 100. So you're buying, it's not like you're buying the right to sell one stock. It's usually you're buying the right to sell 100, right? Yeah. So what people do is, let's say, so you have a put and call option. So a put option is you're essentially shorting the market. You're betting that the stock is going to go down within the time horizon you have.
Those people are rich right now for 2022.
Yeah, they made some money. I was about a year and a half too early on mine. And then call options are you're essentially betting or predicting that the market's going to go up, right? And in order to get that right, you pay a premium, right? So you're paying, maybe it's $1 per $1 for the whole option, or it can be tens of thousands of dollars depending on the price, what where you're putting your bid at in terms of, okay, are you putting it in the money, which means right now, are you in the green? Are you putting it out the money, which means if you exercise it right when you bought it, you would lose. And it can go way, way out the money. So typically the people who you heard made a lot from the Tesla stocks put in in mid 2020, 2021, they were putting it way out the money because no one thought it was getting, maybe except Kathy Woods. No one really thought it was getting that far. Yeah. Getting that far this fast, right? So it's cool in that. And then you have time periods. So these aren't like, there's time segments. It can be as Friday. Usually they're executed on Fridays at the end of the week. So it can be as early as this Friday, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, a year, some 2-3 years out. The longer the time horizon that you have, the more expensive the option, right? Because it's more valuable, because you have more time in order to hit whatever price or expectancy you're looking to hit. So those are some things to think about when you're buying options. Futures. Oh goodness.
It can just be quick, like this. People still have to do their own research, but I just didn't want to talk about things where people are like, "Oh, what's options? What's futures?"
So futures, I'll say the easiest way to explain futures, while they have it for equities, right? Which the futures market was created because farmers or people from agriculture, they needed a way to ensure their risk of how much they can sell their produce for. So let's say you plant something in the fall, right? But you don't reach till the next summer, like spring, summer. That's when your crops are but at this time, you don't know, let's say potatoes, you don't know the demand changes for these potatoes, right? It can be maybe now, maybe becomes a scarcity. And so now people are willing to pay $100 a potato, which sounds crazy, but if there's no potatoes and you don't want to selling them, and McDonald's, Wendy's, etc., they all want them, maybe a cent, or maybe a bunch of people are planting potatoes at the same time, so they become super cheap, and now they're 1 cent per potato. You can't really build a business model or livelihood off of that. So instead of that, maybe you're saying, okay, you know what's a fair price? 50 cents or $1 per potato. I'll take that right now, regardless of what happens, that my supplier is buying that at this future, buying this future on it, and regardless of what happens, I will sell it. And so typically it came from commodities, right? So the Chicago's really where the mercantile was set up. But it extrapolated from agriculture products, oil, other commodities, gold, etc., to U.S. bonds or debt and equities as well. Typically ES, NASDAQ, etc. Bitcoin is now jumping in too, but it's super dangerous. We do not recommend it for 99% of people, because unlike options, you're typically not going to lose your money in a day. In options, your complete money, you can, but you're typically not. Futures, you can lose everything in 2 minutes, 10 minutes, a day, etc. It goes, and the difference is, like, when they take the money out your account there, it's not like, oh, the money is gone. The money is gone. So please be very careful in thinking about it. You can make a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but we should be very careful about thinking about that because it's just such a high risk. And this is typically where the superstars play. And I'm not a superstar. I'm not saying that to big myself up. I'm not a superstar. And I learned that. So I just want people to be super cautious with futures.
Yes, guys, be careful with options and futures. Also, it's so funny because I noticed, this is kind of off topic, but as you were mentioning just risk, and we were talking about even gambling, I'm noticing on my timeline, a lot, I would say, males are investing in like FanDuel, MGM, and I'm just like, if they could learn this, you can learn stocks and real estate. Like, I'm just like, I don't know if I'm gonna put $500 on a wager versus buying a stock or like, I mean, that's just me personally, but I'm just like, I see people, of course, again, people show you when they're winning, but you don't really see when they're losing, or people get really upset when they're losing in something like sports, like anything can happen. It's just like kind of crazy. And it also kind of reminds me of also stocks. But what's a little frustrating is just that you see all these ads and commercials for this. Like literally, you're on your Instagram, you're watching TV. It's just like coming up. Like the other day, I logged into the Snapchat. Lord knows how long I've been on that. And you just see like FanDuel, sign up, you get a bonus money. And I'm just like, why? This is what frustrates me. And it's going to lead into our next question about financial literacy. For me, it's frustrating because it's like, why don't they do this with stocks? Or when it's like, hey, you could buy for a family, you could start getting some passive income. Why we don't have those kind of sponsorships? I don't understand. Like, it's just like, no, come give me your money, come gamble. And then what frustrates me is like, you see this little sign, like, you have a gambling problem, call this. Why aren't there commercials about like learning more about financial literacy? And then, we've been preaching this, like, hey, schools, add financial literacy. Hey, do this, do that. It's like, it's falling just on deaf ears. Like Congress, nope. Superintendent's meeting, no. Boards, nope. It's just like, but when it comes to just like gambling, like you literally can see it, find the information it's right there for you. It's really interesting. Like, why can't somebody tell you, like, hey, do this or buy that, and it will help you out? It's like, even anything that's helping you, like if it's a first-time home buyer, you don't see those sponsorships come up on your timeline. You don't see those kind of things. I don't even like follow sports like that, and it just comes up on my timeline. So I know for sure it's not even like they're looking at my history. They're just targeting random people. So like, why can't companies do that? It's like they're purposely trying to keep people out. And I can't talk because I don't know if this is even about race or anything like that, but I just noticed I see FanDuel, MGM, DraftKings. I'm like, what is this? What's happening? Why can't they do this when it comes to financial literacy? So this kind of leads me to the other question, which is like, who should be teaching us financial literacy? And I understand where it's just like, yeah, sometimes it starts home and school, but it's like this kind of like predator, kind of like stalking you kind of thing that big tech is doing. It's not cool. It's not.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question, right? And it's of utmost importance. I think in realizing where the incentives lie, unfortunately, we've grown to be an economy which is about spending / consumerism, right? It's not. We need to get back into terms of producing, creating wealth, investing, and understanding that the incentives somehow have to be tied, right, to the decision makers. The people believe that the best thing forward for the country, the community, is to get more people into investing, to get more people to learn about assets, to get more people to reduce their liabilities, right? And
so it's
and
us.
Yeah, so it is, and I think this came back to the psychological. So I think the problems in terms of what's going on, there's a psychological problem, right, in terms of shame, whatnot. There's also societal problem, right, in terms of why people are FanDuel, Bet MGM, and all these other things is like that's what their friends are talking about. That's what society is talking about, right? The NFL game, who has this statistic, right? Who's doing this? Did you watch the game last night, right? So who, like, oh wow, it's your team doing what? So those are the things that's more commonly talked about, right? So people people don't feel shame in talking about that. They're comfortable and they exercise that muscle. That's the place people feel comfortable at. We feel comfortable talking about sports. We need to change that in terms of getting people to feel comfortable talking about, because you can have the same thing about talking about finances, talking about your stocks, right? It can be as exciting. Like, man, did you see Tesla's new robot? Oh my goodness, that's going to change the world. What is your company coming up with? All right, you think that's not okay? Did you see Apple's new glasses? What?
Ooh, let me go check the stock. Like, automatically I read something. Let me check the stock. Like,
Did you see that? What's going on, man? Did you see Microsoft just bought Activision? Sheesh, the games are going to be fire. I have Game Pass. What's going on? So, understanding, getting people to think about that I think has to happen on several different levels. So right at Uplift, we're trying to do that in a variety of ways. One, we're trying to work with institutions, right? Because institutions touch the most people,
yes.
right? So trying to work from that standpoint, it's hard though, working with schools, working with nonprofits, working with other agencies in order to, and community leaders, politicians, to teach their constituents or their students or their staff about financial literacy. But more importantly, we're trying to get them to want to learn about it.
Yes.
Right. So there's like we're doing push and pull marketing. We're trying to get them to learn, to want to talk more about it. I think it's hard. I want to also put it on parents as well, but it's hard if the parents haven't been taught that either, right? So it's kind of like a chicken or egg problem we have there. But I think we all have a part in this. I think our government as a whole needs to truly think about this, because we are severely hamstringing ourselves, and this is going to become, if it hasn't already become, our Achilles heel.
Correct.
Like, so if we don't get this spending budget deficit on the government scale, but also on the personal financing scale done, it's going to be hard for us to stay as a world power eventually, right? So this really needs to, in terms of the nation growing and continue to hold our place in the world, it has to happen. We have to become smart at that. And I think for other nations as well who are interested in that, they have to make sure their constituents know about this and think about this, because if they don't, their voting or their wants are going to help make them think short term instead of long term, and that's going to doom our country and other countries as well.
I agree with you. It's so interesting because, a lot of people, depending on if they follow politics and government, I do like heavily. It's just, we just passed 30 trillion in debt. How, how could that government turn around and tell us, hey, guys, citizens, take a look at your personal finances, help us out. Like those stimulus were to stimulate the economy. You know what I mean? And I mean, the funny thing, something that they did do that maybe is like turning, but who knows how that's working with real estate, is like they allow people to take out money from like IRAs and things like that, 401ks. And so people turn around, put in real estate, doing things like that. But it's just like, what lessons are we learning here, just as a whole? Because the government is printing money like it's no other. Like people aren't talking about it, people aren't paying attention. Like I already knew inflation was coming way before it was coming. Like it was just like, no, this is not sustainable, what are we doing? And then we turned around and just did what? Like wait, hold up, what is happening? Like, because there's no such thing as free money, guys. As much as people want to say it, no such thing as free money. Like it's just kind of crazy. So now it's like we're seeing that and we're seeing what's going on, but then you want to turn around and have people like, hey, I want you to be responsible. But on our end, it's just like, are we truly being responsible? When a bill is going out, just a small portion of that bill is really going for what the bill is stated for versus a whole other 70% that's going somewhere else. So it's just like, you're right. I understand the government needs to start, but it's just like, wow. Now you're saying it definitely starts between us, the peers. We share information we have. Thank you. You always share information with me. Like, hey, I saw this on real estate. Hey, I saw this on investing. You send it to me. And I truly appreciate that. You even send me contacts. So I really appreciate that. Just like, and I feel like that's what needs to be done. And even for me, my lines are always open. Unless I'm doing something with my son or my husband or maybe work, call me. What questions do you have? Hey, D, this is what I had to do. Whether you take that information and run with it and use it, but then when you see me doing it again, you're like, D, and I'm like, I told you that 2 years ago. I'm doing the same thing. You know what I mean? But it's just like, you're right. It does start with us. It does start with shame. Another thing, we emphasize this on this call, is just people, you have to know what works for you, right? I did have a conversation with somebody the other day, like, hey, I'm interested in investing in real estate. Hey, what's up? Give me a call. It had a whole different situation, right? They are just a primary provider for a child and their mother. I don't understand that, right? And I'm not saying I don't understand it, but it's just like, I would never tell you, hey, go invest all you have and do that. That's irresponsible of me. You're in a whole different situation. You you need to have a different kind of safety net versus me. You know what I mean? So it's like, you always have to do what works best for you, you know? And then that person, they were working remote basically. So I'm like, go get you a house somewhere else, do a house hack, rent it out, and then just leave. Like, do something like that. You know, you investing 40, 50,000 somewhere, that might not be the best thing for you because your mother's older. And you know, I don't want to say it, but if something happens, then you might have now childcare costs that you didn't have before. You know, you always have to, I always try to think long-term as well. As I mentioned earlier, there's no rush to this. There's no rush for wealth. The goal is, guys, for this wealth to stay for our kids, kids. Some of this might outlive us, you know, like this might not be for us to get our Lambo and our Ferrari. This might be just for future generations. Like, and that's all we have to do. Like, you know, you do things like me. I love traveling. You know, I look at it as I'm investing in traveling, like learning new people. I've met so many people just on trips and on the road. So it's just really best to know, you know, do what works for you. That's really important. Also enjoy life. We know life is short. Like I had people that were at my job, because you know I work government, so people retire late and do like, I'm gonna travel when I retire. Boom, 2020 hit. Look at you home. I'm just like, and they're like, yes, that's so smart. You traveling young, and I'm just like, yeah, this life is short. This life is not guaranteed. You know, it's not. It's really, really not. So it's very important to do what works best for you. Don't look at other people's situations. Don't compare yourself. In fact, hopefully, I don't know. I can't speak for all people, but I am your ally. You have a question, something that I know about, I will help you out. I have friends like, look, my friends is here right now in Thailand, 8 a.m. You know, you have questions, feel free to ask us. This is what this podcast is about. This is what we're trying to build. We're trying to build communities. The name of his business is Uplift Communities. That's beautiful and that's amazing. So I'm just happy for that. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
No problem. So I want you to finish this statement. On the topic of financial literacy, did you know?
Investing in your knowledge is the best investment. I wish I said that better, but
nope, that's right. You'll get the best returns as long as you invest in knowledge. That's perfect. That's really good. Thank you so much. This was really great. Thank you. I wish you the best. We'll definitely be talking soon. Thank you so much.
Yes. My pleasure. Amazing job. Love your podcast.
Oh, you'll definitely be back on. Thank you. Take care.
Take care.